you've got VO2, pulmonary VO2. And what Dave's got is he's got data here which is at the critical power, and it's really beautiful to see. So they've identified critical power. They've had somebody exercise at that critical power, so on a separate visit. And what can you see? Look at the VO2. You get a perfect VO2 slow component, but it is steady state. They've asked them then on a separate visit to return and do exercise just 5% above the critical power. Notice two things. One, it is no longer steady state, it's a non-steady state response. So we get an ever-developing deficit and an ever-developing VO2 slow component, that is the area under the curve. And two, the time to exhaustion, they terminate early compared to what happened in the critical power condition, and that's because they've hit the point of volition exhaustion, which is the VO2 max. And so you can just see those kind of responses here. The red lines are identifying for us, this is our slow component, this is our deficit. There is no real VO2, well there's a slow component, but it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger here, and this is our deficit here. And you can see the same for the blood lactate responses. You get a steady state response at critical power, so even in the heavy domain, although you're above gas exchange threshold or lactate turn point, you will get a steady state response. That's where the MLSS notion came from, that although you're working above that transition from predominantly aerobic to anaerobic metabolism, lactate will reach a steady state. But should we go 5% above the critical power, blood lactate keeps rising, and as we saw previously, this is the VO2 max, and they terminate exercise here at about 18 minutes to comparison to what they've got here, which is at about 24 minutes. If we go slightly a stage further and perhaps use data with a bit better fidelity, this is from Andy Jones, and this is above and below critical power, and what they've used is PMRS data, so this is using really sophisticated technology to be able to do this. And so what you've got here is, this is in the heavy intensity domain, this is the severe domain, so you can see the pH responses between the two. So we get a steady state response for PCR and a steady state response for pH in the heavy domain, non-steady state responses for pH and PCR, and this is kind of just average data across those two conditions. So quite significant differences that you're seeing for exercise above and below the critical power.